Hello guys, welcome to another video. We're 1 week away from the GGG live presentation for the new Path of Exile 2 reveals and the full content reveal for Path of Exile Necropolis. We'll likely also get the full patch notes on that day too, that's March 21st. However, last night, GGG posted information for the current league, Affliction, and what will happen to that league when it ends. This post contains all of the information for what parts of Affliction, if any, will go into the core game, so let's take a look. So all of your progress will be migrated to the parent league as normal at the end of the challenge league on March 26th. All tinctures and charms will be deleted. I discussed the possibility of tinctures going core as a standalone item in a previous video, since they're a lot more interesting than charms, for example, with the trade-off that you need to make with your flask slots. But even if they were to go core, they'd need a significant rebalance for the modifiers that they grant, and I think they'd want to change them to make them functional with most things in the game, not just attacks. For now though, tinctures and charms are not going core, and any existing tinctures and charms will be deleted, so you won't be able to use them in standard after Affliction ends. We then get the information here that existing itemized corpses will not be deleted, and any of those corpses that have been raised as spectres will remain functional. So for example, if you made a build like the one in the Build of the Week series, I believe it was Balamage's Popcorn Spectres using the Dark Marionettes, well, you'll be able to continue using that build, even though it may be a lot weaker without charms. Make sure you don't unsocket the raised spectre gem though. If you see yourself playing that build in Standard League in the future, you may want to take this opportunity between now and the end of Affliction League on March 26th to stock up on corpses, as they'll no longer be available to obtain next league. Next, the Wildwood Ascendancies will be going away. I think this was pretty obvious from the fact that tinctures and charms are being deleted, but unlike the Trial of the Ancestors where characters that moved into Standard League were able to keep all of the existing tattoos that had been applied to the passive skill tree, this won't be the case with Wildwood Ascendancies. They'll be gone come March 26th. And as a result of that, any items in the rucksack, that's the extra inventory compartment that was available on the Primalist Ascendancy, that will become remove-only space on characters that had access to it that are moved into their parent league, similar to how league content stashes work in Standard when the end of a league migration happens. And lastly, we get the information here for the only part of Affliction which is actually going core in 3.24 Necropolis League. That's the Wildwood-exclusive unique items, all of them except for that which was taken. I know that many people thought that this jewel was going to be a pretty much surefire thing to go into the core game, but it looks like that's not the case, unless that which was taken is being added to the core game in a different capacity, such as a new boss drop. In that case, we'll probably learn that information during the reveal on March 21st. But just based on this post alone, we can say for now, that which was taken isn't going core. However, 6 other unique items are going core. 3 of those were exclusively found from enemies in the Wildwood. Those are the Trickster's Smile unique helmet, the Nametaker unique sword, and the Flawed Refuge unique shield. And the other 3 were exclusive drops from the King in the Mist's boss fight. Those are the Pragmatism unique body armor, the Untouched Soul unique amulet, and the Burden of Shadows unique staff. And I have to say, these are some interesting additions to the core game. I did an entire video about the Flawed Refuge shield a while back, discussing how that shield can be quite powerful in the right setup, and really, I think this is one of those unique items that just sits there for a while and nobody really takes much notice of it, until at some point, someone popularizes a very strong use case and all of a sudden it's on everyone's radar. There's already the combo using this with Divine Flesh, so that you're able to avoid elemental penetration on 90% of incoming damage. And I think if I end up finding this one in SSF in Necropolis, I might be tempted to make a build around it, since I didn't end up finding it during Affliction League. I'm curious to see what unique rarity tier this one lands in when it goes into the core game, as I can't really see it being that rare, but we'll have to wait and see. There's also the Pragmatism unique body armor, which I touched on in another video. This one can be so powerful when it's used in a smart way. I know that in Affliction League, there were a bunch of builds using this with the new Body Swap of Sacrifice gem to explode the Dark Marionette Spectres, and they were using this body armor to gain a bunch of gem levels for the Raise Spectre gem, so that the Dark Marionettes had a lot more maximum life. But the Dark Marionette Spectres will no longer be obtainable in Necropolis. I know Nito also made a fun build using this body armor with Spellslinger, since the Spellslinger gem counts as a skill gem, so it gains the gem levels from Pragmatism, and if you're interested in that, I'll link his video in the description below. And I'm very happy to see the Untouched Soul amulet go core. This is a really fun one that enables a bunch of life stacking builds, and I think in the future we'll see a lot more builds making use of this one as well, perhaps for some mana stacking or even accuracy stacking. Uberdan made a great Burning Arrow of Vigor Elementalist build this league using this amulet to stack a bunch of life to enable that new Transfigured gem, and I'll link his video in the description below as well if you'd like to check it out. There's also the Burden of Shadows unique staff, which I believe was the King in the Mist's rarest drop. I didn't personally see one of these drop this league, and I also didn't see many builds using it either. This is a fun one, but I think with it being a two-handed weapon, it has to compete with a good crafted weapon and potentially a shield as well, and I'm just not sure that this one provides enough upside. However, I think when this one goes into the unique core drop pool, and it's not a ridiculous rarity tier like tier 1 or tier 0, players will probably experiment with it a bit more, and I think if Blood Magic gets some buffs in the upcoming league or in the future, the potential of this unique item goes up as well. Lastly, we have the Trickster's Smile and the Nametaker. I'm not really too sure what to make of these. The Trickster's Smile is just so niche and awkward to use, and it's taking a very valuable slot as a helmet, and I don't think it will see much use. I did try to POB a few setups using the Nametaker early on in Affliction League, and I even tested out a bunch of mechanics with dual wielding to see how these bonuses worked with different interactions. The Nametaker does have 200% critical strike multiplier and 100% instant leech when hitting a unique enemy, since uniques have 20 enemy power. And if you're not sure what enemy power is, it's a mechanic that's being borrowed from Warcries. Normal enemies have 1 power, magic enemies have 2 power, rares have 10 power, and uniques have 20 power. So this does have some powerful stats when hitting unique enemies, but I just don't think it's enough to compete with other weapon options. However, I'm sure we'll see this one crop up in the future in a fun build, and that's really all the fun of the uniques making their way into the core game. Often they'll just lie dormant for a while, and at some point some new mechanics or interactions come into the game, and this thing is all of a sudden very relevant. And as I mentioned before with the Flawed Refuge, I'm interested to see what rarity tiers each of these uniques end up going into, since the Trial of the Ancestors uniques ended up having kind of weird tiering in my opinion. Rakiata's Dance went into tier 0, while Defiance of Destiny went into tier 1, and I think that should have been the other way around. But we'll have to wait and see for what happens with the rarity tiering for the Affliction uniques. Thank you to my supporters on Patreon, and thank you for watching this video. If you want to support me and my channel, I've moved the primary way to do that from YouTube memberships over to Patreon instead. The link is in the description below. As always, stay tuned and stay safe.